Think for a moment. Really, truly stop and consider the last undeniably nice thing you did for someone. Perhaps you spent hours helping a friend move heavy furniture, enduring the aches and pains without complaint, or volunteered your precious weekend time at a local charity event, foregoing personal plans, or maybe you simply offered a deeply comforting word and a patient, listening ear to a struggling colleague when you yourself felt pressed for time. Whatever it was, recall that moment of perceived goodness, that feeling of having done something inherently right. Now here's the crucial, and perhaps uncomfortable, question that will set the tone for our entire exploration in that moment. Were you being truly selfless, driven purely by an unadulterated, pure desire to do good for its own sake, without a shred of personal gain? Or, and please, be brutally, unflinchingly honest with yourself, cutting through all your usual defenses, was there, lurking beneath the surface, perhaps something, even something subtle or unconscious, in it for you? A profound sense of personal satisfaction, a quiet boost to your self-image, the expectation of reciprocal kindness sometime in the future, the hope of earning social praise or admiration, or even just the powerful desire to avoid the nagging discomfort of guilt or a negative self-perception. This is precisely where we embark on an extraordinary intellectual journey, a deep dive into the human psyche that promises to be both unsettling and, paradoxically, incredibly liberating. For millennia, the greatest philosophers, theologians, and thinkers have wrestled with the complex, often contradictory, tapestry of human motivation. But few have ever dared to dissect it with the surgical precision and unflinching cynicism of a 17th-century French aristocrat, François de la Rochefoucauld. His seminal work, Reflections or Sentences and Moral Maxims, first published over 350 years ago, a startling testament to its enduring relevance, is a deceptively slender volume that packs an astonishing punch, capable of rattling the very foundations of how you perceive your own character, the authenticity of your good deeds, and indeed, the true nature of everyone around you. He strips away the veneer of polite society and invites us to gaze upon a raw, unedited truth. Prepare yourself for a concept so audacious, so utterly fearless in its honesty, that it will feel like a cold, bracing splash of water on all your most cherished, comfortable illusions about human goodness. La Rochefoucauld famously, perhaps infamously, declared, "Our virtues are most frequently but vices disguised." Let that sink in. Truly let it resonate within you. Read it again if you must. Our virtues are most frequently but vices disguised. It's a statement that cuts straight to the core of our most flattering self-perceptions, suggesting that much of what we proudly label as goodness, our much celebrated generosity, our deep compassion, our unwavering integrity, our willingness to sacrifice, our acts of apparent selflessness might, upon closer, more honest inspection, be nothing more than sophisticated self-interest, cleverly masked. It could be an elaborate and convincing costume carefully tailored and worn by our ego, our vanity, or even our more base, hidden desires for validation, control, social standing, or simply the avoidance of pain. It's a shocking, almost scandalous truth, isn't it? A profoundly provocative challenge to the very notion of pure, unadulterated altruism, suggesting it might be rarer than we dare to admit. But instead of recoiling from this uncomfortable mirror, I implore you to lean in. This video isn't about condemning human nature or fostering nihilistic cynicism. Quite the opposite. It's about understanding it with unprecedented clarity and profound insight. It's about courageously pulling back the elegant, often ornate, curtains of our collective self-deception to reveal the intricate, sometimes surprising and always fascinating machinery that truly drives us all. We are embarking together on an intellectual adventure of profound self-discovery, using La Rochefoucauld's brutally honest, timeless insights honed over 3 centuries as our unwavering compass to navigate the often murky, unexplored waters of our inner world and the complex motivations of others. The promise here isn't a fleeting, fluffy, feel-good narrative or an easy, comfortable platitude that will leave you unchanged. It's something far more profound, far more enduring, and, perhaps ironically, far more genuinely empowering, a surprising, perhaps even uncomfortable, but ultimately transformative path to authentic self-improvement, forged through an unwavering, radical commitment to brutal self-honesty. By bravely confronting these deeply uncomfortable truths, by truly acknowledging the subtle, often unconscious, hidden motives that underpin even our most outwardly noble actions, we can begin to cultivate a deeper, more genuine, more authentic understanding of ourselves. This, in turn, allows us to live with far greater integrity, purpose, and clarity, shedding the burden of unspoken hypocrisy and embracing a more genuine self. Are you truly ready to look into that unvarnished mirror without the flattering filters, without the convenient excuses? Are you ready to confront the shocking truth about your own good deeds and what truly drives them? Let's begin this extraordinary journey together. Have you ever suspected that beneath all the polite smiles and grand pronouncements, there's a much simpler, perhaps more self-serving, engine-driving human behavior? What if embracing that suspicion, looking it squarely in the eye, wasn't a path to cynicism, but to genuine understanding, to true freedom? Welcome. This is where we meet your inner cynic, not as a jaded adversary, but as your most insightful, perhaps even your best friend. Today, we're diving into a book that, despite being centuries old, feels as fresh and relevant as tomorrow's trending #reflections or Sentences and Moral Maxims by François de la Rochefoucauld. Now, that's a mouthful, I know, but trust me, the insights contained within are anything but dusty. La Rochefoucauld was a French nobleman in the glittering, treacherous 17th century court. Picture Versailles, opulent beyond imagination, a stage for power, ambition, and endless intrigue. He wasn't just an observer, he was a participant, living among the dukes, duchesses, and cardinals, watching the raw, unfiltered machinations of human nature play out in the highest echelons of society. He saw behind the masks of piety, patriotism, and virtue, realizing that often these noble facades were merely elaborate disguises for self-interest, vanity, and a relentless pursuit of power. His experience offered him a unique, unvarnished perspective, one that few others have ever possessed, let alone articulated with such precision. His book, Reflections, isn't a long, meandering treatise. Instead, it's a collection of what he called maxims. Think of them as philosophical tweets from the 17th century, short, sharp, and often startlingly profound truths delivered with an elegant, almost surgical precision. Each maxim is a distilled observation, a tiny, potent capsule of human insight, often delivered with a witty, almost cutting edge. They cut through the noise, bypass the pretense, and land right on the core of our motivations. They're designed to make you pause, perhaps wince, and then, crucially, understand. Now, before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about wallowing in negativity or concluding that humanity is beyond hope. Quite the opposite. This book isn't about making you feel bad. It's about giving you the owner's manual to the human ego, both your own and everyone else's. Imagine having the blueprint to the intricate wiring of self-love, hypocrisy, and ambition that powers so much of our daily lives. Once you see the wiring, once you understand the hidden mechanisms, you're no longer just reacting blindly. You can start making real, conscious changes. You can navigate the world with a new clarity, a refreshing sense of agency. This isn't cynicism in the nihilistic sense, it's informed realism. It's a tool for self-awareness, for understanding why people, including yourself, do what they do, even when their stated reasons sound entirely different. It's liberating, truly. It transforms vague unease into precise insight, allowing you to build stronger, more authentic relationships and make better decisions. Over the course of this video, we're going to systematically unpack Rochefoucauld's most piercing observations. We'll explore key themes like the omnipresence of self-love, the often illusory nature of virtue, the true cost of ambition, and the complex dynamics of friendship and love. We'll delve into how these maxims illuminate our own lives, our interactions, and the broader social landscape. But this isn't just an academic exercise. Each section will not only explore these profound truths, but will also culminate in a practical action plan, tangible steps you can take to integrate these insights into your daily life. We'll move from theoretical understanding to real-world application, helping you to harness this sharper vision for personal growth and empowerment. So, are you ready to look past the superficial, to dismantle a few comforting illusions, and to equip yourself with an unparalleled clarity about what truly drives us all? If so, settle in. This journey promises to be eye-opening, challenging, and ultimately profoundly rewarding. Let's begin our exploration and meet the wise, unflinching inner observer that Rochefoucauld can help awaken within you. Welcome, thoughtful listeners, to Reflections, a journey into the timeless, often unsettling wisdom of François de la Rochefoucauld. In this inaugural chapter, The Operating System of Humankind's Self-Love, we plunge headfirst into Rochefoucauld's most profound and provocative thesis that amour-propre, or self-love, which we can broadly understand as self-interest, isn't merely one motivation among many, but the fundamental, undeniable engine behind virtually all human action. It is, he argues, our default setting, the hidden force guiding our choices, our words, and even our most seemingly altruistic deeds. Rochefoucauld spares no one from this scrutiny, least of all himself. His genius lies in stripping away the flattering veils we drape over our true intentions, revealing the core of self-interest that pulses beneath. Consider his famous maxim, self-love is the greatest of all flatterers. What an astonishingly insightful observation. It's not just that we enjoy flattery from others. It's that our own self-love is an internal flatterer, constantly whispering sweet nothings into our ear, convincing us of our own virtue, our own nobility, our own pure motives. It persuades us that our actions, no matter how self-serving, are actually for the greater good, or at least justifiable. It makes us the hero of our own narrative, invariably good-hearted and well-intentioned. This internal flatterer is tirelessly at work, obscuring our true motivations even from ourselves, making us believe we are far more selfless than we actually are. This ancient insight resonates with remarkable clarity in our hyper-connected modern world. Think, for instance, of the phenomenon we now call virtue signaling on social media. Someone posts a passionate denunciation of an injustice or a heartfelt endorsement of a charitable cause. While their concern might be genuine, Rochefoucauld would gently suggest that a component of this act is also a desire to be seen as good, to accrue social capital, to align oneself with a morally superior group, or to enjoy the fleeting dopamine hit of likes and affirmation. The self is intrinsically involved, even in advocating for others. The same principle applies to corporate charity. A major corporation announces a multi-million-dollar donation to an environmental cause, often accompanied by a robust marketing campaign trumpeting their benevolence. While the donation undoubtedly does good, can we ignore the accompanying boost to their public image, their brand reputation, and ultimately, their bottom line? This isn't necessarily a condemnation. It's an observation that even seemingly selfless acts often double as shrewd marketing strategies, intertwining philanthropy with profit. The self-love of the corporation, driven by its self-interest, finds a flattering reflection in its charitable endeavors. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth Rochefoucauld lays bare is how deeply this self-interest permeates even our most intimate relationships, love and friendship. We like to believe our affection for others is pure, boundless, and entirely selfless. Yet Rochefoucauld would argue that even here, our own needs and desires are profoundly intertwined. We seek companionship because it alleviates loneliness, validation because it boosts our self-esteem, support because it lightens our burdens. We love those who make us feel good about ourselves, who reflect our best qualities back to us, who fulfill our emotional or practical requirements. Does this diminish the beauty of love or the strength of friendship? Not necessarily. It merely acknowledges the undeniable human element. We often love ourselves in the other, finding our own contentment, our own purpose, our own fulfillment within the framework of that relationship. A parent's fierce love for a child, for example, is also deeply tied to the parent's identity, their legacy, their desire for meaning and continuation. It is a love that gives, yes, but also a love that takes, in the sense of fulfilling profound personal needs. The ultimate conclusion, then, is not one of cynicism, but of profound, liberating realism. Accepting that self-interest or amour-propre is our default setting, our fundamental operating system, is not to surrender to selfishness. On the contrary, it is the first crucial step toward genuine wisdom. It allows us to shed illusions, to understand ourselves and others with clearer eyes. Once we recognize this inherent human tendency, we can then consciously choose to transcend it, to cultivate true altruism, not out of naive idealism, but out of informed intention. It's about recognizing the internal flatterer and choosing, sometimes against its seductive whispers, to act with a deeper awareness. This self-knowledge, this honest appraisal of our core motivations, is the true foundation upon which a more authentic and ultimately more virtuous life can be built. It is the beginning of understanding humanity in all its complex, contradictory, and utterly fascinating glory. Welcome back to our journey into the sharp, insightful world of Rochefoucauld. In Chapter 2, The Mask of Virtue, we peel back another layer of human pretense, venturing into, perhaps his most unsettling, yet ultimately liberating, revelation, the idea that our most celebrated virtues, courage, humility, generosity, are often nothing more than socially acceptable, cleverly disguised versions of our deepest vices. This isn't just cynicism, It's a profound and necessary challenge to how we understand ourselves and the motivations that truly drive us. Rochefoucauld suggests that what we praise and aspire to as noble character might, upon closer inspection, be a sophisticated disguise, a refined form of self-interest, or even a subtle manifestation of our darker impulses, repackaged for public consumption and personal comfort. He forces us to question the very fabric of our self-perception and the moral landscape we construct around ourselves. Consider one of his most cutting observations, a maxim that strips away the veneer from a virtue often held in the highest regard. Humility is often only a feigned submission which we employ to supplant others. Read that again. Humility, that cornerstone of saintliness and modesty, reduced to a manipulative tactic. What Rochefoucauld is suggesting here isn't necessarily that true humility doesn't exist, but that a significant portion of what we label as humility is, in fact, a calculated performance. It's the individual who constantly downplays their achievements, not out of genuine modesty, but to subtly elicit more praise or to disarm potential rivals by appearing non-threatening. It's the strategic bowing and scraping, the deliberate act of seeming meek and subservient, designed to win favor, gain trust, and create an impression of harmlessness, all while secretly plotting their ascent or maneuvering for advantage. Think of the ambitious employee who consistently defers to their manager, praising their wisdom, never challenging, always appearing compliant and docile. Is this truly selfless humility, or a strategic display of submission, a patient biding of time until they can step into that very manager's shoes, having ingratiated themselves along the way? Rochefoucauld would argue it's often the latter, a sophisticated form of self-advancement dressed in the appealing garb of virtue. This uncomfortable lens of suspicion, once applied, reveals itself everywhere in our daily lives. Take, for instance, the virtue of patience. We commend it, we strive for it, we see it as a mark of inner strength and calm. But how often is our patience merely a convenient cloak for a deeper, less admirable fear? Is your patience in a difficult situation genuinely a calm, measured approach, rooted in wisdom and self-control? Or is it, perhaps, a fear of confrontation, a reluctance to voice discomfort, a silent endurance rooted more in avoidance than genuine strength? Are you truly patiently waiting for the right moment, calculating your next move with deliberate wisdom? Or are you simply procrastinating, paralyzed by the potential discomfort or awkwardness that comes with decisive action? Rochefoucauld would compel us to examine the deeper impulse, the root cause, rather than simply accepting the pleasant, self-congratulatory label, or consider generosity. We universally laud the generous spirit, the open hand, the individual who gives freely of their time, money, or resources. But how often does generosity carry with it a hidden agenda, a subtle string attached, whether consciously acknowledged or not? Is your lavish gift-giving, your constant offers to help, a pure act of unadulterated benevolence, or is it a subtle way to create obligation, to ensure future favors, or perhaps, most insidiously, to reinforce your own sense of superiority over the recipient? The person who constantly offers to pay for everything, to lend money, to do favors, are they driven solely by selfless altruism, or do these acts subtly build a network of dependency, a psychological leverage, creating a subtle power dynamic where others implicitly owe them? Does it feed a deep-seated, perhaps unconscious, need to be seen as the giver, the one who always has more, the one who is inherently better off. This is where Rochefoucauld's work truly becomes a mirror, reflecting back not just society, but our very selves. I invite you right now to pause and consider one of your own cherished virtues. Perhaps it's your honesty, your unwavering loyalty, your tireless dedication, or your profound compassion. Pick one that you pride yourself on, one that you believe defines a good part of who you are. Now, with Rochefoucauld's unflinching gaze as your guide, ask yourself, with brutal honesty, could this virtue, in certain situations or under specific pressures, be a sophisticated mask for a vice? Is your honesty sometimes a blunt instrument used to wound others, or a convenient way to avoid taking responsibility for nuance and tact? Is your loyalty actually a fear of change, a comfortable clinging to the familiar, or even a refusal to acknowledge the legitimate flaws of someone you feel obligated to defend? Crucially, the goal here is not self-flagellation. It is not to label ourselves as inherently bad, hypocritical, or beyond redemption. Instead, it is a profound invitation to a more realistic, honest, and ultimately, more compassionate self-assessment. It's about understanding the complex, often contradictory motivations that drive us, acknowledging the shades of gray within our character rather than clinging to simplistic black and white definitions. By acknowledging these potential undercurrents, by understanding the interplay between our conscious intentions and our unconscious desires, we gain a deeper, more nuanced understanding of our own character. We become less susceptible to self-deception and better equipped to genuinely strive for true virtue, not merely its convenient appearance. It's about moving from a simplistic good or bad binary to a richer, more profound appreciation of human nature's intricate tapestry. In The Mask of Virtue, Rochefoucauld doesn't destroy our ideals, he refines them. He doesn't strip away our capacity for goodness, but rather urges us to look beyond the surface, to question our impulses, and to understand that true virtue, if it exists in its purest form, is far more rare and hard-won than we often presume. It's a challenging journey into radical self-honesty, paving the way for a clearer, more authentic vision of ourselves and the complex world we inhabit. Welcome back to our exploration of Rochefoucauld's profound and often discomforting insights. In this third chapter, we plunge into what many find to be the most challenging aspect of his reflections, the uncomfortable truth about friendship and love. Here, Rochefoucauld strips away the romantic veneer from our most cherished bonds, presenting a stark, even cynical, look at human relationships, their transactional nature, and the pervasive role of self-interest. It's a perspective that, while unsettling, offers a unique lens through which to examine the true foundations of our connections. Let's begin with one of his most cutting maxims: what men have called friendship is only a social arrangement, a mutual adjustment of interests, and an exchange of favors. Take a moment to let that sink in. Friendship as a mere social arrangement, an exchange of favors. This declaration shatters our idealized notions of selfless camaraderie, suggesting that even our deepest attachments are, at their core, predicated on a form of reciprocity. Initially, this might feel cynical, perhaps even offensive. We want to believe our friendships are born of pure affection, shared values, and unconditional support. But Rochefoucauld urges us to look deeper. Consider the dynamics of your own friendships. Isn't there an unspoken understanding that help will be reciprocated? That emotional support today might mean a listening ear tomorrow. When you offer advice, isn't there often a subtle satisfaction in being valued, or perhaps a hope that your friend might reciprocate a similar gesture when you are in need? This isn't to say that genuine affection doesn't exist, but rather that it often coexists and is perhaps even amplified by the underlying framework of mutual benefit. From networking connections to a shoulder to cry on, the exchange of tangible and intangible favors underpins much of what we experience. This maxim naturally leads us to question the very nature of loyalty. What is true loyalty, and how does it differ from a mutually beneficial arrangement? In our professional lives, the distinction is often clearer. A colleague might show loyalty to you because your success is tied to theirs, or because you hold a position of influence. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement. But what happens if the benefit ceases? If your influence wanes, or your success no longer serves their interest, does their loyalty remain? Rochefoucauld would argue, probably not. He suggests that what we often perceive as loyalty is merely a stable calculation of ongoing advantage. The truly loyal friend, by his standard, would be one who stands by you even when it's inconvenient, costly, or offers no discernible personal gain. But how many such relationships truly exist without some internal reward for the giver, be it a feeling of moral superiority, the satisfaction of fulfilling a personal value, or the affirmation of one's own character? This is the uncomfortable truth. Even altruism often has a self-serving component. However subtle, moving beyond friendship, Rochefoucauld extends his incisive gaze to the realm of love. Here he suggests another unsettling truth, that we often fall in love with the feeling of being in love rather than with the person themselves. Think about it. The initial rush of infatuation, the heightened emotions, the intoxicating sense of being desired and admired, these are powerful, almost addictive sensations. We project our ideals, our hopes, our desires onto the beloved, often creating an image that is more a reflection of our own needs than an accurate portrayal of the other person. The feeling of novelty, the excitement of a new beginning, the validation of being chosen, these emotional experiences can be so profound that we mistake them for a deep, selfless connection to another soul. When the honeymoon phase inevitably fades, and the stark reality of another imperfect human being emerges, the illusion often shatters, leading to disappointment and disillusionment. Is it possible that we are, in essence, falling in love with the emotional landscape that another person helps us create, rather than truly loving that person for their inherent being, flaws and all? Rochefoucauld would certainly nudge us towards that conclusion. So, where does this leave us? If friendship is a transactional arrangement, and love is often a projection of our own desires onto an idealized image, how can we possibly build more authentic relationships once we acknowledge these uncomfortable truths? It's a crucial question, and the answer isn't to descend into utter cynicism and isolation. Instead, Rochefoucauld's insights can serve as a powerful foundation for building stronger, more genuine connections. The first step is radical honesty with ourselves and with others. By acknowledging our own self-interest, our desire for reciprocity, and the emotional rewards we seek in relationships, we can approach interactions with greater transparency. When we understand that even our selfless acts often carry an underlying motive, we can free ourselves from the burden of pretending otherwise. This doesn't mean we become cold and calculating. Rather, it allows us to seek relationships where our interests genuinely align with those of others, rather than feigning an impossible pure altruism. Authenticity, then, might not be about transcending self-interest entirely, but about integrating it into an honest framework. It's about recognizing that mutual benefit isn't inherently bad. It's a natural force in human interaction. True authenticity emerges when we can openly acknowledge what we bring to a relationship and what we hope to receive, allowing others to do the same. This fosters a space of clarity and respect, where expectations are more realistic and disappointment less frequent. It allows for a deeper appreciation of those rare moments when genuine self-sacrifice does occur, because we understand its true cost and rarity. Perhaps the most profound connection isn't found in a denial of self-interest, but in the shared acceptance of our complex human nature and a willingness to offer something valuable, even when the immediate return isn't obvious, simply because we value the connection itself. This perspective challenges us to move beyond superficiality, inviting us to forge relationships built on a foundation of realistic understanding and mutual respect, rather than fragile ideals. Welcome back to Reflections, where we delve into the timeless wisdom of Rochefoucauld. In Chapter 4, The Stories We Tell Ourselves, we confront one of humanity's most subtle yet pervasive habits, self-deception. We'll examine our remarkable capacity for crafting internal narratives that often blind us to our own shortcomings, while simultaneously sharpening our critical gaze toward others. Rochefoucauld, with characteristic precision, captured this phenomenon centuries ago. We are so accustomed to disguise ourselves to others that in the end we disguise ourselves to ourselves. This isn't just about outward pretense. It suggests an insidious process. We start by presenting a curated version of ourselves to the world, perhaps a little braver, kinder, or more rational. We adjust our persona to fit expectations, seeking approval or avoiding conflict. But the profound truth is that this outward performance cycles inward. The mask doesn't merely fool the audience, it subtly reshapes our own perception of our face. We become convinced by our own act, internalizing the very fictions we initially created for external consumption. Modern psychology offers a fascinating lens to understand this ancient observation, particularly through confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. Confirmation bias describes our inherent tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs about ourselves. If you believe yourself generous, you'll readily notice your acts of kindness while subconsciously downplaying moments of selfishness. We curate our own evidence, constantly filtering reality to fit our preferred narrative. Then there's cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort of holding contradictory beliefs or facing new information that conflicts with existing ones. To alleviate this, we rationalize our actions, justify our choices, or alter our perceptions. If we act in a way that contradicts our self-perception, say, an honest person tells a white lie, our minds quickly bridge that gap. We might tell ourselves the lie was harmless, necessary, or even deserved. This isn't always conscious malice, it's often an unconscious, self-protective mechanism to preserve our sense of integrity and maintain a coherent, positive self-image. Together, these psychological mechanisms are the architects of the stories we tell ourselves. We constantly construct narratives to explain our past, justify our present, and predict our future. These are not merely factual recounts. They are carefully edited, subtly biased interpretations designed to portray us in the best possible light. Failures become external circumstances, successes, products of our unique talent. We cast ourselves as the hero of our own epic, the protagonist whose motivations are noble, whose actions are justified, and whose flaws are charming eccentricities. The irony, as La Rochefoucauld would note, is that while we craft these flattering self-portraits, our ability to dissect and critique others' narratives remains remarkably sharp. We spot hypocrisy, self-interest, and veiled motives in friends and public figures with surgical precision. We are experts at deconstructing their self-justifications, yet often blind to our own. This duality highlights the profound challenge of true self-knowledge. To see ourselves clearly requires piercing through comfortable self-deception. So as we reflect on this chapter, I invite you to a moment of honest introspection. What is one story you consistently tell yourself about who you are or why things happen to you? Perhaps it's "I'm just too sensitive," or "I always attract bad luck," or "I'm a natural procrastinator," or "I'm always the one who has to fix things." It could be about your talents, limitations, relationships, or circumstances. Identifying these stories isn't about shame, it's about awareness. Once we recognize a narrative, we can question its origins, its truthfulness, and its purpose. Is it an accurate reflection or a convenient construct? Does it empower or subtly limit you? The first step towards seeing ourselves more clearly, towards genuine self-reflection, is acknowledging the stories we've allowed to become our personal truths. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when these deeply held, often unconscious narratives clash with reality, and the powerful forces that emerge when our self-image is threatened. Join us then, as we continue to uncover the profound insights offered by La Rochefoucauld. Welcome to Chapter 5. Are you talented or just lucky? In our journey through La Rochefoucauld's reflections, we now turn to one of the most persistent and, frankly, anxiety-inducing questions of human existence: how much of our success and failure is truly attributable to our own skill, our merit, our hard work, and how much is simply down to the unpredictable whims of fortune, luck, or mere circumstance. La Rochefoucauld, with his characteristically piercing insight, cuts straight to the chase with the maxim "fortune and caprice govern the world." This isn't a cynical resignation, but rather an astute observation of reality. He's not suggesting that effort is meaningless, but rather that even the most diligent and talented individuals operate within a matrix of events far beyond their design or control. Think about it: a chance encounter, a market shift, an unforeseen illness, the lottery of your birthplace, the historical era you inhabit. These are all colossal factors that can elevate the mediocre or derail the brilliant, regardless of their intrinsic merit. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? That the grand tapestry of our lives, which we so often strive to weave with careful intention, has threads constantly tugged and severed, or unexpectedly reinforced, by an invisible, indifferent hand. This ancient wisdom directly challenges a very modern myth, the narrative of the self-made individual, so deeply embedded in our contemporary hustle culture. We are relentlessly told that if we just work harder, grind longer, sacrifice more, success is not only possible but inevitable. This powerful story, while inspiring on its surface, often inadvertently erases the undeniable role of privilege, connections, timing, and sheer dumb luck. It minimizes the fact that some start the race miles ahead, not because of superior effort, but because of birthright, a supportive network, or the simple good fortune of being in the right place at the right time. To deny this is to perpetuate a cruel illusion, one that heaps undue blame upon those who struggle, suggesting their failure is solely a deficit of grit rather than a collision with unfortunate circumstances. And conversely, it can inflate the egos of those who succeed, leading them to believe their achievements are purely a testament to their own singular genius, overlooking the many invisible advantages that smooth their path. But acknowledging the pervasive influence of chance is far from a concession to nihilism. On the contrary, it's a profoundly liberating perspective that offers immense benefits for both our character and our resilience. When we embrace the idea that fortune plays a significant hand in our outcomes, it cultivates a crucial humility in success. Instead of basking in unbridled self-congratulation, believing ourselves infallible, we become more aware of the fortunate convergences that contributed to our triumphs. This leads to greater gratitude, a healthier perspective, and a willingness to extend grace to others. We understand that while our effort was vital, it wasn't the sole determinant. Conversely, and perhaps even more powerfully, this understanding builds formidable resilience in the face of failure. When we experience setbacks, it allows us to step back from the brink of crushing self-blame. We can rationally assess what went wrong, identifying our own missteps, while also acknowledging the external forces that were simply beyond our control. This distinction prevents us from internalizing every failure as a personal defect, enabling us to learn, adapt, and move forward without being paralyzed by shame or despair. It's the difference between believing I am a failure and understanding this attempt failed due to a combination of my actions and some bad luck. One crushes the spirit, the other empowers renewed effort. This brings us to a crucial bridge, a practical framework for navigating a world governed by fortune and caprice, the Stoic perspective. While Rochefoucauld observes the world as it is, Stoicism offers a powerful strategy for living in it. The Stoics teach us to clearly delineate between what is within our control and what is not. Our efforts, our intentions, our integrity, our choices, our responses, these are unequivocally within our sphere of influence. The outcome, however, whether we achieve the desired result, whether luck smiles upon us or frowns, whether external circumstances conspire for or against us, these are largely, if not entirely, outside our control. The wisdom here is simple yet profound. Focus your energy, your passion, your dedication on what you can control. Pour your heart into the process, into perfecting your craft, into giving your absolute best effort, into maintaining your character and your values. Release your attachment to the specific outcome. Work diligently not because success is guaranteed, but because striving for excellence in your actions is inherently valuable. If the outcome is favorable, great. If not, you can rest assured that you did everything within your power. You acted with virtue, you cultivated skill. And what else could a person truly ask of themselves in a world where, as Rochefoucauld so aptly observed, fortune and caprice ultimately hold sway? The true victory, then, isn't in escaping the vagaries of luck, but in mastering your own mind and actions in spite of them. Welcome back to our exploration of Rochefoucauld's profound insights into the human condition. In this 6th chapter, we delve into a realm where our self-perception often clashes most starkly with reality, the tyranny of moods and passions. We like to believe we are creatures of logic, guided by reason and deliberate choice. Yet, Rochefoucauld, with his unflinching gaze, strips away this comforting illusion, revealing how deeply our physical state, fleeting moods, and powerful emotions often dictate our decisions, holding more sway over us than any carefully constructed rational argument. Consider his potent maxim, "The passions are the only orators that always persuade." This single sentence cuts to the core of human irrationality. An orator, traditionally, is a speaker who uses rhetoric, logic, and eloquent argument to convince an audience. But Rochefoucauld declares that logic and eloquence pale in comparison to the raw, visceral power of our passions. When desire, anger, fear, or even simple comfort speak, our rational mind often falls silent, or worse, becomes a mere servant, scrambling to justify what our passions have already decreed. They don't just present a case, they compel, they engulf, they demand immediate assent. Our intellect, our grand theories, our moral principles all can be swept aside by a powerful surge of feeling. This isn't just an observation from 17th century France, it resonates profoundly in our modern world. Think about procrastination. We rationally know the importance of a deadline, the benefit of starting early, the stress of last-minute scrambles. But the passion for immediate comfort, for distraction, for avoiding discomfort, often persuades us to delay, to browse social media, to do anything but the task at hand. The orator of ease or avoidance consistently wins the debate against the long-term gain orator. Then there's impulse buying. We might have a budget, a list, a rational assessment of our needs. But a sudden desire for that new gadget, that perfectly marketed item, triggered perhaps by boredom, stress, or a momentary feeling of inadequacy, can override all our sensible planning. The passion for instant gratification or a quick emotional fix becomes the only voice we hear, the only argument we accept. And what about decision fatigue? In our hyper-stimulated, choice-saturated lives, our capacity for rational thought is constantly being depleted. After a day filled with countless small decisions, what to wear, what to eat, how to respond to emails, navigating work challenges, our mental resources dwindle. When we're exhausted, the passions for simplicity, for the path of least resistance, for immediate pleasure, gain an even stronger foothold. We become more susceptible to marketing ploys, to poor food choices, to neglecting long-term goals, because the orator of "I just can't think about this anymore" becomes overwhelming. Rochefoucauld helps us understand that willpower isn't an infinite, mystical force we can simply summon at will. Far from it. Our capacity for self-control is intimately tied to our physical and emotional well-being. Try making a complex, rational decision when you're sleep-deprived, ravenously hungry, or overwhelmed with stress. Your ability to resist impulsive urges, to defer gratification, to think clearly plummets. Your body's primal needs or emotional state become the loudest, most persuasive orators in the room, overriding any attempt at rational deliberation. When we're physically drained, our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive functions like planning, impulse control, and decision-making, is simply not operating at full capacity. Similarly, intense emotions like anger, fear, or even intense joy can hijack our rational faculties. Our willpower tank is constantly being filled and emptied by our daily experiences, our sleep quality, our nutrition, our stress levels. To expect it to be limitless is to fundamentally misunderstand our biological and psychological makeup. So if self-control isn't about endlessly fighting our nature with sheer brute force willpower, what is it about? Rochefoucauld implicitly guides us towards a more strategic approach, managing our environment and our energy. Instead of battling every single temptation that arises, we can design our surroundings to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. If procrastination is an issue, remove distractions from your workspace. If impulse buying is a problem, unsubscribe from marketing emails or avoid online stores when you're feeling emotionally vulnerable. This isn't about weakness, it's about acknowledging the power of those orators, our passions, and not giving them an open stage to persuade us. It's about creating friction for undesirable actions and reducing friction for desirable ones. Furthermore, managing our energy means prioritizing sleep, nourishing our bodies, and actively working to reduce stress. When we are well rested, well fed, and less stressed, our rational faculties are stronger, and the persuasive power of immediate passions is diminished. We're not fighting our nature, we're collaborating with it, creating conditions where our higher-order thinking has a better chance against the passionate, often short-sighted, impulses. Self-control becomes less about moralistic struggle and more about intelligent self-management and understanding the levers that truly move us. Rochefoucauld, through this maxim and his broader reflections, challenges us to look beyond the convenient fictions we tell ourselves about our rationality. He invites us to humbly accept the profound influence of our internal states and external environment on our choices. Only by recognizing the persistent, often overwhelming, persuasive power of our passions can we begin to truly understand ourselves and cultivate a more effective, less self-defeating path towards intentional living. It's a call to self-awareness, not self-condemnation, and a powerful lesson in navigating the complex landscape of our own minds. Welcome to Chapter 7, The Anxiety of Reputation. Even centuries before our digital age, the insightful Rochefoucauld meticulously dissected a fundamental human truth, our deep-seated obsession with public image, the intricate dance between who we are and who we want others to believe we are. This chapter isn't just about ancient musings, it's a stark mirror reflecting one of the most pervasive psychological battles of modern life, the relentless pursuit of appearing good, successful, and happy, often at the expense of actually being any of those things. At the heart of this observation lies a maxim so poignant, so uncomfortably accurate, it could have been penned just yesterday. We are more interested in making others believe we are happy than in trying to be happy ourselves. Pause for a moment with that thought. It speaks to a deeply ingrained human tendency, a performative aspect of our existence where the external validation of our joy, our success, our very character, takes precedence over the genuine internal experience. It's not enough to feel good, we must be seen to be feeling good. It's not enough to achieve, we must project that achievement to the world, often exaggerating its luster, convinced that the perception of happiness is somehow more valuable than the feeling itself. Now, fast forward to the 21st century, and this ancient wisdom finds its most vivid and relentless manifestation in the digital realm. Consider the curated perfection of Instagram feeds, where every sunset is more breathtaking, every meal more gourmet, every holiday more idyllic than the last. Think of LinkedIn, transformed from a professional network into a showcase of exaggerated achievements, relentless thought leadership, and carefully constructed personal brands. Even platforms like X or Facebook often become stages for carefully managed personas, a highlight reel of our lives edited to omit the mundane, the difficult, the authentically flawed. We scroll through these meticulously crafted facades, often comparing our messy, real lives to someone else's carefully filtered fiction. We engage in a silent agreement to present only our best angles, our triumphs, our most aesthetically pleasing moments, creating an echo chamber of manufactured contentment and success. We're not just sharing, we're performing, constantly updating our personal advertising campaigns, driven by the subconscious belief that our worth is tied to how successfully we project an ideal self. But what is the cost of this incessant performance? Rochefoucauld couldn't have foreseen the digital era, but his insights into the human psyche perfectly capture the immense mental toll of constantly managing a personal brand. The pressure to maintain this idealized self, to constantly perform for an unseen audience, is exhausting. It fosters anxiety, breeds imposter syndrome, and fuels a debilitating cycle of comparison, leaving us feeling perpetually inadequate. We become so preoccupied with how we are perceived that we lose touch with who we actually are. The fear of not measuring up, of having our carefully constructed image crumble, can be paralyzing. Our self-worth becomes inextricably tied to external metrics, the likes, the comments, the shares, rather than rooted in our intrinsic value. This constant effort to appear flawless creates a deep chasm between our inner reality and our outer persona, leading to a profound sense of isolation, even amidst a sea of digital connections. It's a lonely existence when you feel you can never truly be yourself. So, how do we bridge this chasm? How do we escape the anxiety of reputation and the Sisyphean task of constantly managing public perception? Rochefoucauld's work, though cynical on the surface, implicitly points towards a profound truth, true peace, genuine contentment, and authentic self-worth emerge not from perfecting our external facade, but from aligning our inner reality with our outer persona. It's about prioritizing being a good person, a happy person, a successful person, over simply appearing to be one. It's about cultivating the courage to be vulnerable, to embrace imperfection, and to seek connection based on authenticity rather than artifice. When we release the burden of constant performance, when we stop chasing external validation and instead nurture our inner landscape, we find a freedom that no number of likes or glowing endorsements could ever provide. The most profound peace comes when the person you present to the world is truly and honestly you, flaws and all, liberating you from the exhausting tyranny of reputation. Welcome back. We've spent several chapters now delving into the intricate, often uncomfortable, world laid bare by François de la Rochefoucauld. For many, his reflections can feel like a cold splash of reality, painting human nature with shades of self-interest, vanity, and hidden motives. It's easy, almost instinctive, to label him a cynic, to dismiss his observations as overly pessimistic, or to recoil from the mirror he holds up to our collective and individual souls. But if you've stayed with us on this journey, I hope you've begun to sense that there's far more to his cynicism than meets the eye. In fact, as we reach this final chapter, I want to argue that what appears as cynicism is, in its purest form, a profound strength, an indispensable foundation for genuine self-improvement. For too long, we've been taught to shy away from our imperfections, to polish our public personas, and even to delude ourselves about our true intentions. Rochefoucauld challenges this comfortable ignorance. He insists that seeing our flaws clearly, acknowledging the often unflattering truths about our own motivations, is not a weakness. On the contrary, it is the very first, most courageous step toward managing them, toward growth, and toward authenticity. Think of his maxims not as an indictment, but as a diagnosis. As the saying goes, you cannot treat an illness you refuse to acknowledge. Similarly, we cannot hope to overcome our habitual self-deceptions, our subtle vanities, or our unconscious biases if we remain willfully blind to their presence. Rochefoucauld, with surgical precision, provides the diagnostic tools. He dissects the human heart, revealing the complex interplay of self-love, pride, and interest that often masquerades as virtue. He doesn't judge, he merely observes and records, giving us the vocabulary and framework to understand ourselves with unprecedented clarity. Now, you might be thinking, where is the hope in all this relentless introspection? Is Rochefoucauld simply leaving us adrift, burdened by our imperfections? Not at all. His sharp realism isn't a dead end, it's a new beginning. Consider one of his more illuminating maxims: the glory of great men should always be measured by the means they have used to acquire it. This maxim isn't just about judging historical figures, it's a profound statement on true achievement and genuine self-improvement. It forces us to look beyond success's glittering facade, examining the underlying process. Were the means honorable, authentic? Did they stem from genuine effort and integrity, or from manipulation and self-deception? Applied to ourselves, it becomes a powerful call to align our actions with honest values. It prompts us to seek a glory, a self-worth earned through sincere means, rather than one fabricated from fictions or fleeting external approval. Understanding the often mixed motives Rochefoucauld reveals, we're empowered to choose better means, striving for a glory that reflects genuine character, not mere outward display. It's about building a self robust and true, not fragile or reliant on external validation. And this, ultimately, is Rochefoucauld's unparalleled gift, his 17th-century life hack of radical self-awareness. In an age of quick fixes and curated self-presentation, his work is a potent antidote. He offers not a formula for instant happiness, but a rigorous, honest path to understanding our own being. This radical self-awareness isn't about wallowing in flaws, it's about acknowledging them to navigate the world and our inner landscape with wisdom and efficacy. It strips away illusions, not to leave us vulnerable, but to equip us with unvarnished truth, far more durable than any comforting lie. Understanding the powerful currents of self-love and interest that shape behavior, we're better equipped to manage impulses, understand others, and build relationships and achievements on foundations of reality, not fantasy. It's the ultimate tool for navigating life's complexities, individually and collectively. So let's shed the notion of Rochefoucauld as a mere cynic. Embrace him as a profound guide, a wise physician for the soul, whose seemingly harsh truths are, in fact, the kindest instruments for our liberation. His reflections don't diminish humanity, they challenge us to rise to our authentic selves by first having the courage to truly see ourselves. The journey of self-knowledge is never easy, but with Rochefoucauld, it promises to be a transformative and strengthening endeavor. Okay, we've journeyed through the intricate and often uncomfortable wisdom of Rochefoucauld. We've seen how he unmasks our seemingly noble intentions, revealing the subtle currents of self-interest that frequently lurk beneath. Now, it's time to put these profound insights to the ultimate, most personal test, your own life. Welcome to your 7-day action plan, the Radical Honesty Challenge. This isn't about self-criticism or guilt. It's about cultivating a deeper, more nuanced, and ultimately more compassionate understanding of the complex human engine that drives us all. It's a week-long immersion into radical self-awareness, specifically designed to help you practically apply these timeless philosophical truths to your daily existence, leading you towards a more authentic understanding of yourself. Let's begin this fascinating exploration. Day 1 and 2, the Motive Journal. For the next 2 days, your task is to keep a completely private journal, one that absolutely no one else will ever see. Your mission is simple, yet profoundly revealing. Anonymously log any good deeds you perform. These don't have to be grand gestures. They could be anything from holding a door open for a stranger, offering a sincere compliment to a colleague, volunteering a small amount of your time, or even just being exceptionally patient and understanding with a family member during a difficult conversation. For each entry, I want you to honestly and, yes, perhaps even a little ruthlessly, explore the self-serving motives that might be subtly at play behind it. Did you hold the door to avoid an awkward silence, or perhaps hoping for a word of thanks? Did you offer that compliment because you secretly yearned for one back, or to secure a more favorable interaction? Did you help out because you hoped it would elevate your standing, or perhaps ease a nagging sense of obligation or guilt? The crucial instruction: absolutely no judgment is allowed. This isn't about condemning yourself for being human. It's about observing, with detached curiosity, the intricate dance between your outwardly altruistic actions and your often hidden, self-interested desires. Just observe, without immediate evaluation or self-reproach. Day 3 and 4, virtue under scrutiny. Now, let's turn La Rochefoucauld's lens onto your self-perception. Pick one quality you genuinely consider to be one of your best, most defining virtues. Perhaps it's your unwavering generosity, your deep humility, your undeniable bravery, your boundless patience, or your profound empathy. For the next 48 hours, I want you to actively, diligently, and quite skeptically look for instances where this very virtue, your cherished quality, might actually be a disguised vice. Could your generosity sometimes be a means to control situations, to gain leverage, or to garner praise and admiration? Is your humility occasionally a cunning way to avoid responsibility, to deflect expectations, or even to subtly attract compliments for your modesty? Is your patience a cover for a fear of confrontation or an unwillingness to assert your own needs? La Rochefoucauld reminds us that virtues are often just vices in disguise. Your mission for these 2 days is to critically examine the shadow side of your own most cherished quality, embracing the possibility that even our best intentions can have complex underpinnings. Don't be afraid of what you uncover. Instead, embrace the enlightening nuance. Day 5 and 6 close the gap. We all, to varying degrees, present a certain image to the world, an idealized self we consciously or unconsciously strive to embody publicly. But what about our true feelings, our genuine impulses, our quiet desires that often get suppressed or edited for the sake of appearances or social acceptance? For these 2 days, your challenge is to perform one small, perhaps even insignificant, act, just one that is more authentically aligned with your true, unfiltered feelings or inclinations, rather than your meticulously curated public image. This should be an act you undertake purely and solely for yourself, for the internal experience of it. The most crucial part: you must firmly resist any urge to post about it, share it with others, or perform it for an external audience. This isn't about seeking likes, validation, or recognition. It's about experiencing the quiet, deeply personal satisfaction of unadulterated authenticity. Perhaps it's finally saying no to a commitment you genuinely don't want to make when you'd normally say yes to maintain perceived peace or avoid discomfort. Or it could be indulging in a harmless pleasure you typically deny yourself out of a sense of obligation or perceived propriety. Let your inner self truly guide you, and keep this experience entirely private, an intimate revelation between you and yourself. Day 7. Reflect and forgive. Today is a day of integration, synthesis, and profound self-acceptance. Go back through your motive journal entries, review your careful observations from virtue under scrutiny, and consciously recall the private, authentic act you performed to close the gap. Read all your collected notes with fresh eyes, perhaps even a sense of wonder. What striking patterns emerge? What new, deeper insights do you now possess about your own motivations, the true nature of your virtues, and the sometimes significant gap between your inner world and your outer presentation? This is the pivotal moment to acknowledge your complex, often contradictory, and undeniably self-interested nature, not with shame or self-condemnation, but with profound compassion and understanding. Rochefoucauld ultimately wasn't trying to make us feel bad. He was inviting us, with a bracing honesty, to see ourselves more clearly, to become truly wise to the human condition. This is precisely what it means to be human, a messy, magnificent blend of self-preservation, genuine good, and intricate motivations. Forgive yourself for being imperfect, for having hidden motives, for sometimes struggling with authenticity. Embrace the full, rich spectrum of your unique humanity. This journey of radical honesty is a continuous one, and today, you've taken a brave and significant step towards truly understanding and accepting yourself in all your intricate glory. We've journeyed deep into the often uncomfortable, yet undeniably illuminating, world of Rochefoucauld's reflections. He held up a mirror, not to flatter us, but to show us the intricate, sometimes unsettling, truths of human nature. Before we conclude, let's distill his profound insights into a practical, actionable framework, what we can call the 3-point Rochefoucauld Code for a more self-aware and ultimately more effective life. This isn't about cynicism, it's about clarity, about leveraging uncomfortable truths for genuine personal growth. First, and perhaps most provocatively, Rochefoucauld asserts that you are fundamentally wired for self-interest. This isn't a judgment, it's an observation. Our actions, even those we perceive as altruistic, often have a hidden current of self-preservation, self-affirmation, or the pursuit of our own comfort and desires. The critical lesson here isn't to bemoan this fact, or worse, to pretend it doesn't exist. That path leads to hypocrisy, self-deception, and a lack of understanding of both yourself and others. Instead, the wisdom lies in acknowledging this inherent drive. Once recognized, you gain the power to direct your motivations toward positive ends. If you understand that your desire for recognition fuels your efforts, you can channel that desire into mastering a skill, contributing to a team, or leading with integrity. If you know that your need for security is paramount, you can make informed, proactive decisions about your finances and relationships. By embracing this core truth, you move beyond mere reaction and begin to consciously shape your actions. You can use your self-interest as a powerful engine for good, rather than letting it subtly dictate your life from the shadows, creating unintended consequences. Secondly, Rochefoucauld urges us to question everything, especially your own virtues. This is where true introspection begins. We all love to believe we are courageous, compassionate, generous, and wise. We build narratives around these perceived strengths. But Rochefoucauld would ask, is your courage simply a fear of looking weak? Is your compassion born from a desire for praise or a genuine connection to another's suffering? Is your generosity a means to secure future favors or alleviate your own guilt? True character, he argues, is not built on self-congratulation, but on rigorous self-awareness. It's about peeling back the layers of pretense and societal expectation to see what truly motivates your good deeds. This isn't about tearing yourself down, it's about building yourself up on a foundation of honesty. By challenging your own perceived virtues, you begin to understand the nuances of your moral landscape. You learn to distinguish between genuine, intrinsic goodness and actions driven by vanity or external reward. This honest self-examination is the crucible in which authentic virtue is forged, leading to a much more robust and reliable character than any illusion of perfection could ever offer. Finally, and perhaps most liberatingly, Rochefoucauld teaches us that honesty about your own flaws is a superpower. In a world that often demands a facade of perfection, admitting your imperfections can feel like an act of vulnerability. But Rochefoucauld shows us it's an act of immense strength. When you can openly acknowledge your envy, your vanity, your fears, or your inconsistencies, several transformative things happen. Firstly, it leads to genuine humility. You understand that you are not above the human condition, making you more relatable and less prone to arrogant missteps. Secondly, this humility fosters profound empathy. Recognizing your own struggles allows you to see the same struggles in others, not as failings, but as shared aspects of the human experience. This deepens your connections and improves your understanding of motivations beyond your own. And most importantly, honesty about your flaws is the bedrock of genuine personal growth. You cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. By bringing your weaknesses into the light, you gain the agency to work on them, to mitigate their impact, and to transform them into areas of wisdom and resilience. It's a courageous step towards authentic self-improvement, moving past superficial self-help and into profound, lasting change. It frees you from the exhausting burden of maintaining an illusion, allowing you to invest that energy into becoming a better, more integrated version of yourself. So, the three-point Rochefoucauld code isn't a blueprint for becoming cynical, but for becoming truly wise. It's a call to strip away the comforting illusions and confront the raw truth of who we are. Embrace your self-interest and direct it consciously. Question your virtues rigorously to find their authentic core. And finally, wield the superpower of honesty about your flaws to cultivate humility, empathy, and genuine growth. These aren't easy lessons, but they are profoundly empowering. They invite you not to be disillusioned, but to be truly awake. And in that awakening lies the profound opportunity for a life lived with greater intention, deeper understanding, and an unshakable, hard-won self-awareness. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of history's most acute observers of the human heart. We've journeyed together through the often disquieting, yet undeniably insightful world of Rochefoucauld. His maxims, like sharp, polished mirrors, have held up reflections of human nature we sometimes prefer to keep hidden, revealing the intricate tapestry of self-interest, vanity, and inherent complexities that underpin much of our behavior. They are rarely gentle, often direct, and sometimes feel less like abstract philosophy and more like a candid personal confession you didn't know you needed to make about yourself or those around you. This isn't philosophy for the faint of heart. It's an insistent invitation to unflinching self-examination and a deeper understanding of our own motivations. Now that we've delved into these piercing, often uncomfortable observations, I'm genuinely eager and curious to hear your personal reflections. As you listened, as you grappled with his often cynical, yet undeniably truthful pronouncements, I want you to consider which of these maxims felt like a direct, personal attack. Which one hit a little too close to home, perhaps exposing a hidden motive, a subtle hypocrisy, or an uncomfortable truth about yourself or others that you hadn't fully articulated before? Did one of his sentences make you pause, perhaps even wince, in recognition? And conversely, and this is equally important, which maxim, despite its stark honesty, felt unexpectedly liberating? Perhaps it offered a moment of profound clarity, a sudden, illuminating understanding of a complex human interaction, a relationship dynamic, or even a sense of relief in realizing that these fundamental human frailties and contradictions are indeed universal, not just isolated to your own experience. Don't hold back. The comment section below is precisely where the real, raw, and honest conversation begins. Share your specific examples, your unfiltered interpretations, your moments of discomfort, and your sudden epiphanies. Your insights not only enrich your own understanding, but also deepen the collective exploration for everyone in our growing community of thinkers. If this kind of deep dive into human nature, into the sometimes uncomfortable but always illuminating truths whispered across centuries by philosophers like Rochefoucauld, resonates deeply with your intellectual curiosity, if you appreciate a brand of philosophy that doesn't just passively entertain but actively challenges you to look inward, to reconsider your deepest assumptions, and to expand your understanding of the self and the intricate world around you, then please don't let this be our final encounter. We are purposefully building a vibrant space here for genuine intellectual curiosity, for thoughtful reflection, and for challenging, respectful discussions. Please take a moment right now to hit that like button. It's a simple yet powerful way to show your support for this kind of content and helps more people discover these valuable insights. And, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll officially join our ever-expanding community of independent thinkers and ensure you never miss our next profound journey into texts, ideas, and philosophical concepts that promise to provoke, to enlighten, and ultimately, to help you grow as an individual. Our journey together today has, by necessity, only scratched the surface of Rochefoucauld's profound and intricate observations. To truly immerse yourself in his distilled wisdom, to give each maxim the space and time it deserves, to ponder each sentence at your own deliberate pace, to underline and annotate, to argue silently with the pages, to let his precisely chosen words marinate in your mind over days, weeks, and even months, there's simply nothing quite like it. It's an intensely personal and profoundly rewarding experience that only deepens with every reading, revealing fresh layers of meaning and resonance as your own life experiences evolve and grant you new perspectives. For those of you ready to take that crucial next step, to hold the full weight of his insights directly in your own hands and mind, You'll find a direct and convenient link to Reflections or Sentences and Moral Maxims in the video description below. I wholeheartedly encourage you to pick up a copy, whether it's the timeless physical book to grace your shelf or an accessible e-version, and discover for yourself what unique personal revelations and uncomfortable truths patiently await you within its complete and unexpurgated collection. It's a journey best undertaken firsthand at your own speed, allowing his words to truly settle, challenge, and shape your ongoing understanding. And finally, if this discussion today sparked something truly profound within you, something you feel absolutely needs to be explored and debated with another receptive mind, I implore you to share this video. Specifically, I want you to think of just one friend, that one unique person in your life, with whom you can have the most brutally honest, no-holds-barred conversations, where pretenses are effortlessly dropped, where intellectual sparring is not only embraced but deeply valued, and where challenging each other's perspectives leads to mutual growth. Send this video their way. Let Rochefoucauld's often unsettling, always thought-provoking insights become the immediate catalyst for a truly profound, and perhaps even wonderfully uncomfortable, dialogue between you two. Because sometimes the most unsettling truths, the most challenging ideas are best navigated, best understood, and most effectively integrated into our personal worldview when they are openly shared, vigorously debated, and deeply reflected upon with a trusted confidant. It's in these shared, honest reflections that our understanding truly deepens and new perspectives emerge. Thank you so much for listening, for engaging, and for daring to reflect with us on the enduring complexities of human nature. Until our next thought-provoking session, keep thinking critically, keep questioning assumptions, and keep exploring the boundless depths of yourself and the world around you.